In this video, we're going to cover prepaid purchase orders. So first of all, I'm going to go out and take a look at a vendor here. And this particular vendor doesn't have any kind of balance. There's no transactions out here for this vendor. So I'm just going to use this to make life easy. If I look at the item ledger entries, the vendor ledger entries, there are none. So what we'll do to begin with here is we'll create a purchase order to this vendor for some product. So I'll go to purchase orders. And I'll create a new one. And I'm going to use V00010. I think that's the one that we want. Yep, so we'll pick this vendor. And we're going to purchase an item from them. And the unit cost of this item, the direct unit cost, I'm not sure what it is, but we actually don't really care too much. Right? $780 a unit. So I'm going to purchase, let's purchase 40 of these, and we're going to pay $1,000 just to make the mathematics come out easy here, so that we can just sort of round this up. The next thing that I'm going to do, so I'm going to drop down to the bottom area here where I have prepayments, and I'm going to set this up for 100% prepayment. So I tab off of this. It asks me if I want to modify the lines, and I'm going to say yes. And this has now actually been set up to take prepayments out here. The next thing we have to do is then to create a prepayment invoice. So the next thing that I want to do is create the prepayment invoice. So I'm going to enter in here PO 106006 _prepay. And I'll tab off of this. And I'm going to go to Actions, Posting, Prepayments, and Post Prepayment Invoice. It asks me if I want to post this. I'm going to say yes. And this has now created a prepayment invoice for me for this vendor. So if we just exit out of here for a moment, if we go to vendors and we look up this particular vendor, we'll see that we actually have an open invoice for them out here. And it's for $40,000 plus, I think there's some taxable amount on it as well. So we have an invoice out here for $40,000. So I'm going to make a payment for half of this amount to the vendor right away. So I can pick Process, Create a Payment. And this is going to bring in today's date, so on and so forth. I can pick my bank here. I can say that this is checking. Payment type is going to be computer check. And I can say OK. And this will create a payment journal for me. So I want to just pay half of this amount. So in here, I'm going to enter in 20,000. And it's going to be bank checking, applies to doc, print computer check. Everything here should should now be good. So what I'm going to do is just go to check, print check. And let's see here. I don't think I need to do too much of anything with that. I'm just going to pick up. Check, and print. Should come up and ask me for my printer. Just defaulted to my printer. Oh, there it is. So this has come up to my printer. I'm going to say print. And you can probably hear my printer running in the background. So this check has now been printed for $20,000. And check has been printed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to post this invoice, this payment. And so we've now paid the 50% out front of this 100% that we need to pay. And as you can see, we have a payment here for $20,000 now. And this has been recorded against this prepayment for us. If we go back and take a look at the purchase order, I'm just going to go to purchasing, purchase orders. We'll see that the purchase order has changed just a little bit. It now says pending prepayment, which it didn't before. And so we've now made a 50% payment on this. We now can go in and pay the other amount before we receive this or do anything. So we'll take a look at that next. Just before we leave this purchase order, if we go to related documents, we can look at prepaid invoices here right from the purchase order itself, and we can see that the amount of this is $40,000 and the remaining balance is $20,000 because we've obviously paid half of this. So you can actually see this from the purchase order itself. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to the vendor again here, and if we drill into the ledger entries that we have out here, we have this invoice, and the invoice still has a remaining balance on it of $20,000. So we can highlight this invoice, we can pick process and create a payment for it. The same information we had before comes in. This brings us into our payment journal, and it has the remaining amount to pay. So I'm just going to review this. The lines on this, it's invoice, computer, check. I think we're all set here. We're going to go to check. We're going to print the check. This will pop up, want to go to my printer. I'm just going to print this. This Kronos database. The check's not formatted exactly correct, but that really won't have any bearing on what we're doing here. So the check prints for this. And then when we're done with this, we're just going to post the check. So this check has now been processed for this particular vendor. We've made 2 payments to this now. So if we look at the documents that are out here, the ledger entries for this vendor, we now have made 2 payments for it. Remaining balance on the invoice is now 0. So we've made both both payments to the vendor, and we have not received any merchandise against this yet. So let's go over and we'll actually receive the merchandise now, and we'll pay the invoice, and we can see what happens with that. So if we take a look at this purchase order, we can do a couple of things here real quick. We can look at documents, prepaid invoices. We can see that the whole $40,000 has been paid. There is no remaining balance on this. If we take a look at the line items here, we have a quantity of 40. We have quantity to receive of 40. Quantity to invoice of 40, but nothing has been received and nothing has been invoiced against this. So what we can do with this is we can pick post and posting, and I'm going to just receive these items first so that we take them into inventory. So this will post the items and make the inventory available to us. So we now, if we take a look at this, we now have actually received 40, and we still have a quantity to invoice of 40. Now when my vendor's invoice comes along, what I want to do here is I want to actually put in their real invoice number. So their invoice number is invoice 12345, and now I can actually invoice this. And if I go to posting, we just want to invoice. So this has completely invoiced this out. It has created a posted document number. Do you want to open the posted doc? I'm going to say yes. And so our purchase order now is gone. We've actually received everything into inventory, and you can see that the transaction is completed. If we take a look at the values out here, it was a $40,000. We paid $40,000. Notice that there's a $2,400 total on this. This was a taxable transaction. So this $2,400 is still owed to the vendor for the sales tax. And that can be handled at a separate time. It isn't charged as part of the prepayment.